Hello, my name is Davika. I am a tech recruiter at Climate People, and I'm here with Emily, who we recently just placed with Optera as a product manager. Emily, thanks for joining today, and thanks for taking time this morning. Um, just to kind of kick off the call and share more about like your experience, can you talk about how things were to like get a job in climate and what that was like for you.
Sure. So I've been more or less around the climate space for a long time. I did a undergraduate degree in environmental science and economics. After graduating, I thought like I will go get a job in climate, and that's just not how an undergraduate degree works. I've bumped around to a bunch of different fields, just acquiring skills, but with always an interest in climate, and it's kind of luck of the draw. And until remote work culture really took off, you were really limited to what was in your area. And the remote option has been a huge game changer, but it also is challenging to find a position with so many places to look and no centralized place to look into. So Climate People has been really helpful to me to have that knowledge base and be able to like give me some options and places to explore.
Yeah. Have you experienced any barriers like during this time when you were searching for jobs in climate? Just given that it was such a prevalent topic that you really wanted to be a part of and look and dive deep into. Um, what were some barriers that you felt like you experienced, but also what were some, helpful key resources that you felt really helped push this process for you?
Hmm. So one of the barriers I think is around kind of the types of businesses that are really pushing into this space. I am very interested in working in startups, and so a lot of the businesses that I looked into were fairly small. And one of the challenges there can be that you have a lot of postings that really don't lead to anything. So applying to a position where you think, oh, I have a great background for this, and you never hear back is pretty, like, I think it's pretty common. Like, they don't have automated systems to like let you know that they've already filled it, or they don't have a recruiter who's doing that for them. So that was one challenge that I faced. I actually got so many like non-responses that I was really surprised by. One of the techniques that I used, apart from working with Climate People, was looking at the like biggest like VC groups and funding organizations that work in like the climate and tech space, and seeing who they're funding and where like those areas of growth are. Also like their reports on startups to watch and things like that. I did end up finding quite a few places to apply through that, but none of them really panned out. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting space where like
Yeah.
I think market dynamics really affect who's hiring and like how serious they are about like pursuing the positions that they post. It's one of those things where it's like a numbers game or somebody helps you through it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this angle of really looking at who's funding the capital for these startups is really important because I think this idea behind how much a startup has like for funding in their current rounds, it could be a little distracting, I'd say, in terms of how you look at it and the perspective you take from it. Because you can have a startup with a small amount of funding, like 5 million, and they're pushing that throughout 2-3 years, but
Right.
it's about the leadership and the roadmap that they're really creating and that like runway that they're making for themselves to be able to actually efficiently use that and be able to scale out. So yeah, the perspective you're taking to really navigate that barrier is really important. um so, I know that this climate piece is really important to you too, like throughout all our conversations. We always kind of round back to this next step in your career and really, tying your interest and passion to wanting to work in this space. Um, so, can you kind of talk to me more about like why you wanted to choose to transition into climate? Like, what's your relationship with climate? And
Sure.
kind of, expand on the impacts piece here for you.
Yeah, this is kind of a maybe a cop-out sort of answer, but I think just doing something that matters has become one of my core values. It's something that's been very important to me for a very long time. And as I've, gone through, high school, university, undergraduate, and, learned more technical skills, the synthesis of computing power and technology and data science as a solution mechanism for climate is something that I've become very interested in, because I have a core value of doing something that matters with one of the most pressing issues that we face as a species, well, more than human world, really. And I think like the way to do that is with telling good stories with data. And yeah, I've just been trying to get back to being able to action that in some way. I've worked for now 2 startups previously that are kind of on the peripheral in positioning their products to be climate or sustainability solutions, but it's really more about the tech and giving it that spin. I have been fairly skeptical as to like how effective they are as a real tool, and it's really exciting to be able to work in the middle now.
Yeah. So we're kind of talking about being in the middle here. Can you tell us more about the job that you took and, more about the company and the company's mission?
Yeah, for sure. So Optera is a climate sustainability and ESG rating consulting company. They started in 2006, and from about 2006 to I believe 2016, they did more the in-person white glove approach to consulting and emissions management for corporate clients. Around 2016, they started shifting over into building out a more data and tech platform that would help ingest enterprise data, help companies track both up and downstream, like externalities, costs, and emissions for various forms of their business and products. So what I'll be doing with them is working on one of their tech platforms and helping to build out this fairly baby version of their new platform into the new service offering for the company.
Yeah. And can you kind of share more about, this transition from starting in IC and then kind of moving into management and this career growth for yourself and, now kind of stepping into this even further into a climate role and, a product manager role. What does this kind of look like for you? And in terms of like what you originally thought a career in climate would look like?
Yeah. Well, in retrospect, I've always been pretty bossy. So the transition to management, the transition to management, I think happened a really long time ago. My first job out of university was as a summer student lab tech, and that very quickly transitioned into me managing the grad students. Um,
You have the best college stories.
I think it's a good, like, product management is an interesting fit in terms of management because you don't have direct reports. You have to have, I've seen this described as like people management superstar capability, but you don't actually have any people who have to respect you. You have to gain their trust and their input without having any rules. So I think that's something that I've been developing over time, because I always just take power. So it's more of it's just a fit that I've sort of found myself in. I ended up in product management because I was a subject matter expert in agronomy and plant science. So I worked for an ag tech company that did a lot of tech around crops and crop disease and development. And so I had a lot of understanding of the farmers and the usage of the technology. And because of how the company was structured, we needed a product manager. So I was a natural fit there. It's really exciting to get back into another place that I know a decent amount about, but I also get to work with much more expert people, which is very exciting. And that I can work as a product manager and business analyst and learn from them.
Absolutely. So kind of on the note of, this leadership track, what is your style of leadership? How do you connect with the team that you're managing?
Sure. There's kind of a buzzword phrase, the servant leadership style. I think that probably is the closest fit for me. In product management, because you aren't like ordering people around so much as making sure the team and company is flowing in the right direction, it really is about just wearing as many hats as necessary in a small company, or making sure that the information is going to everyone who needs it. It's very much about that kind of service aspect. And ideally, what that looks like, if you're doing it well, is people come to you and they look to you to know the answers. That can be very stressful because they come to you at all times when you don't want them to and ask you questions. But like that also tells you you're doing it right.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's pretty amazing because I think that, having this path of leadership and your vision of how you want to really be a leader in the company, in this climate company, to really push strategy and product forward. It's really important, and it's going to be extremely valuable for the growth of the company too. So, in regards to advice that you have for other people looking to transition their careers into climate, what piece of knowledge can you share?
There are just so many ways that you can pivot into climate. Climate is a very big tent, and it doesn't really matter what your background is. You really just have to have a reason to want to find a place for yourself. Engineering is a clear fit, IT and tech, obviously, but even, I know people who have been in the service industry and wanted to pivot into climate. It's definitely a thing that is possible. And I know people who have done it from any career. So it's really less a skill set that you already have and more seeing how you match your skill set with somebody who needs it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, kind of on this like journey of finding a climate job, how was your experience working with climate people?
Awesome. So just independent of the whole climate part, the idea of having a recruiter help me through the process of like workshopping my interview skills and what I should be highlighting, and just giving me feedback on like, oh, that's actually like a really good thing that you did. You should talk about it. That kind of feedback is something I've never really had since I was a student. And even then, it was like very basic resume building, like, don't use a crazy font. Like, I haven't had that kind of like grooming for a very long time. And that was awesome. It really, I think it's something that I probably would have figured out eventually after like a lot of pain and suffering. But like, it's great to have that feedback and have it be personal to me and to where I want to go. So, yeah, such a great experience.
Right. Well, that's awesome. I'm really glad. And Emily, it's been like an absolute pleasure getting to know you throughout the process and, constantly checking in and seeing how things are and just seeing that the process is flowing really well for you too. So, our experience working with you too has just been an absolute delight. And we're so excited that you've gotten a job in climate. So there's so many exciting steps for us. And, while our sole mission is to get people jobs in climate, we also like to give back and donate 1% of our replacement fee to an environmental nonprofit that supports our diversity and inclusion initiative. So did you have a second to take a look at the options that we sent along?
Good. Yes. I'm just going to pull that up again to remind myself of what those three were. while I'm doing that, I just want to say it's been such a pleasure working with you specifically, Devika. You've been amazing, and just like getting to like build a personal connection with you has been just like amazing. It's
It's
just
been
like
so good.
you're such a good person. Let's see. All right.
So, so let me see if I can also so this is part of why we appreciate Natalie being here, because she has all the information on hand.
I found it. No worries. I did get to go through all three of them. They all look like awesome initiatives. I think where I want to go with is the Honnold Foundation, though.
Oh, beautiful. Okay. Fantastic choice. And we're super excited to send this donation in your name. So thank you so much, Emily. Um, all right, well, that is all the questions we have. So is there anything else you'd like to touch on, or any other like comments or anything you want to like just kind of share as we kind of close off here?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that has been on my mind basically since we started working together is like, who do I know who I could just like send your way?